In today's video, we have a very interesting topic to discuss, which is the mental models. So, mental models are one of the most important concepts in HCI, human computer interaction. First, though, you have to suffer one bit of theory, namely the definition of mental models. A mental model is what the user believes about the system at hand. So, note the two important elements of this definition. One, a mental model is based on belief, not facts. That is, it's a model of what users know or think they know about a system, such as your website. Hopefully, users' thinking is closely related to reality because they base the predictions about the system on mental models and thus plan their future actions based on how the model predicts the appropriate course. So, it's a prime goal for designers to make the user interface communicate the system's basic nature well enough that users from reasonably form reasonably accurate and thus useful mental models. So mental model is based on belief, not facts. It's what the user believes how the system should operate. They base their predictions on those beliefs. So it's the prime goal for designers to make the user interface communicate the system's basic nature, so it's easier for them to predict their actions, right, and make those predictions. So individual users each have their own mental model. Every user will have their own different mental model. It's not something like one mental model for all your users. That's not going to happen because everybody has got their own apps. They have learned experiences from different products and services, so they have formed mental models differently. A mental model is internal to each user's brain, and different users might construct different models of the same user interface. Further, one of usability's big dilemmas is the common gap between designers and users' mental model. So, because designers know too much, right? We know too much about how user interfaces work. We have studied this formally. We have taken a lot of courses about usability and HCI. So we have we have a better ability to predict how things should work, but our users haven't taken those courses. They haven't formed those wonderful mental models, right? So they form wonderful mental models of their own creations, leading them to believe that each feature is easy to understand, and that's totally understandable. But for this, what happens? There's this gap, right, between how a designer thinks and how a user thinks. So it's very important for the designer to actually think from a user's perspective, think about from their mental models. That's where user research comes in. It's very helpful. So users mental model of the UI are likely to be somewhat more deficient, making it more likely for people to make mistakes and find the design much more difficult to use. So until and unless you don't appreciate this, that individual users have their own mental models, it may be vastly different from each other. It may be further vastly different from how a designer's mental models work. So if you appreciate this, then what you will do is that during the process you will make an active effort to understand the mental models of users or build a UI which is so which is so interactable and so basic, in terms of its interaction and ability to communicate, that they can form reasonably accurate mental models on the spot, and they don't have to depend so much on their own learned expectations and predictions. So that's the two important elements of this definition of mental model. Then so when you have when you appreciate the distinctness of designers and users mental models, then you need to act on these mental models as well, right? So understanding the concept of mental models can help you make sense of usability problems in your design. It can help you make sense of usability problems in your design. When you see people make mistakes on your site, the reason is often because they have formed an erroneous mental model. They have formed an incorrect mental model in their mind. Although you might be unable to change the UI at that point, you can teach users a more accurate mental model at an earlier stage of the user experience. So if you have seen that users are forming different like incorrect mental models, what you can have is interventions. You can sort of educate them of how the system works. So in case of mental model mismatch, you basically have two different options. One, make the system conform to users mental models, which is You understand how the users want it to work, and then you implement it accordingly. This is approach usually recommended for to fix IA problems, internet information architecture problems. If people look for something in the wrong place, then move it to the place where they were looking at. So card sorting is a useful way to discover users mental model of an information space, so that you can design your navigation accordingly. So this is a one fix, like you mm, change your system, how it works, how it's designed, how it's structured, to match how the users want it to work. That's one approach. Second approach is you improve users mental models so that they more accurately reflect your system. So you keep the system open, you keep the system as fairly constant, but you improve the mental models of your users. So you can do this by, for example, explaining things better and making labels clearer to make the UI more transparent, even though the underlying system remains unchanged. So you can improve product education, you can improve their mental models and how well informed they are to make sense of your UI. So these are the two approaches. Either you can change your system, your system mental model to match the users, or you can improve the users' mental models. Mental models are a key concept in development of instructions, documentation, tutorials, demos, and other forms of user assistance, because again, you're not assisting the user physically, you are assisting the user form a stronger mental model with your product. So all such information must be short while teaching the key concepts that people need to know to make sense of the overall site. It's sometimes worth trying to short worth trying a short comic strip. Research has shown that mental model formation is enhanced when concepts are simultaneously present in both visual and verbal form. So if you have seen any user manuals with the product you buy, like an electronic or a gadget, the user guide definitely has got visuals in it, because again it helps with mental model formation. It's easier to understand. So that was all about mental models. Hopefully this video was helpful, and now you have a very solid understanding of this important concept of HCI, which is very integral to design and UX as a discipline. And yeah, that was all for mental models. Now I'll see you in the next video, which it is the last video of this course. You have come a long way. So I'll see you in that video. Thank you.